welcome to a new edition of In the District. Today we're sitting down with District 77 Assembly Member Landon Dais. We'll discuss early beginnings, current happenings in District 77, and his advocacy for the youth and legal cannabis shops. I'm Brittany Schuyler, and this program is brought to you from BronxNet's brand new media and technology studios in the South Bronx. Assembly Member, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. So, before we sat down, you got to see a little bit of our studio. You got to take a little bit of a tour. Tell me, what are your thoughts?
It's magnificent. It's a jewel. It is a cultural establishment in the South Bronx, and it needs to be magnified because it is something that people need to know more about. The fact that you guys are training people in the community, such as yourself, that's now in the anchor chair, as they say, that just demonstrates your commitment to the South Bronx, to the Bronx in general, but also the positive impact that you can have in our community. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. It's funny. It's like you said, this could be one of these, very known studios. You just need to get the people outside and get the people around. But it really is this professional place to train people and to kind of train the next generation of media leaders. So thank you so much for coming today and checking it out. So with that, tell us a little bit about how you think this particular building right here can have an impact on this neighborhood.
Well, first off, yes, it's two parts, right? The building has affordable housing, which we need, real affordable housing.
Yeah.
Not $3,500 for a studio, but apartments that people from this community can afford to stay. They deserve to be here, right? They earn the right to be here. But if we want to do it right, we also need more establishments like this where you're not just beautifying the community, but you're creating opportunities. When you create opportunities, that gives people hope. When you create hope, that creates positivity. And I think that is what you guys really are. The news is so negative, but you guys are so positive, right? And I think that is why you guys are a game changer and why I think people will come, because you've built something that they can be proud of and you can tell their story. And everyone's story deserves to be told. And I think you guys are the perfect person for that.
I really like that. It's not just about making the place look nice. It's about having those opportunities because, yes, the place in this area could be nice and beautified, but if there's nothing coming out of it that's going to help the community members, then, why do it in a sense?
We've seen when they try to gentrify a location or when they try to change it and they take the soul out of that community. And I think you guys are going to keep the soul as a part of it. And that's something that as the Assembly Member 77th and a lot of my colleagues, we're not going to allow the Bronx to lose its soul. And the people are the soul of the Bronx, and that's why we fight for them. That's why I fight for them, because they're good people. They're hard workers. They just want to be in a safe place, a place where they can have their friends and family, a place where they can learn and have fun, dance, listen to music. They just want to live their lives, right? And that's what my goal is, to make sure they can live their lives to the best of their ability and give them every opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And, you were discussing earlier, we will go to it later on in the conversation, just about the negative news. It's always something so negative, but the Bronx just has this rich and diverse culture that is hidden behind headlines and clickbait and all of that. So I'm so excited to get into that later in the conversation. But, at BronxNet, a huge part of our mission here is education and media literacy. So can you just, in your perspective, just the importance of media literacy in the South Bronx and kind of learning these tools and these skills?
Sure. I mean, let's look at the opposite of it, right? In today's world of social media, misinformation is doing so much damage. We need vessels, channels such as here, such as what you do, is to ensure people get the real information. The real facts, right? Not opinion spin to make revenue and add money, but someone telling the story of what it is. And the fact that you're not spinning it positive, you're just putting a focus on something that people just don't put that positivity on the Bronx. Charlemagne the God always makes a joke that if something crazy happens in the Bronx or in Florida. What I say is the Bronx is where real stories happen because that's where real people are. Real people are doing it, right? We have bakeries, we have jobs, we have the Yankees, right? We have BronxNet. We're about to have the Hip Hop Museum where hip hop started. There's a lot of positivity and we need to talk about that because giving people the right information so they can make their own opinion off the facts is what we need to get back to. Not spewing our opinion to move people in a certain direction so our revenue goes up. We need to let the people know what's going on and let them come to their own opinion.
Absolutely. You said it beautifully. And with that, I kind of see how this work and kind of influences your work as an assembly member. So let's talk about that. So for those who may not know, what is the role of an assembly member? What does that job entail?
I tell people I have 3 jobs. So my first job, reality, is Albany, right? I'm usually in Albany 3 days a week, at a minimum 4 days during the budget, which is tough. I'm a father of 2 boys, 5 and 7. I'm a husband. That's the hardest part, actually, of the jobs, being away from my family.
Yeah.
But in Albany, my number 1 job is to work on the budget, right? We just passed the budget. It was a couple of weeks late. Our apologies. But we had some major issues that we were dealing with. Housing reform, the cannabis shops, closing the illegal cannabis shops, right? I'm a big advocate. I'm a cannabis attorney by trade, and I'm a big advocate for the legalization, but I want it done right? Making sure that these illegal shops are closed, we make sure they're not selling their children, and making sure they're not near schools, right? We got to do it the right way. So we passed the laws that helps the state. The budget is really what our biggest impact, because funding for schools, funding for programs that such even here, right? Making sure that, public access and other entertainment entities get the proper funding that they deserve, so you can have this wonderful studio and the work that you do, after school programming, youth sports. So that's my first job. Second job is representing the district, right? It's more quality of life issues. We have a lot of my constituents having housing eviction issues. We work with them. I have a tremendous team, Ms. Sharon and Felix, Udelis, and Abar. They do a lot of great work to make sure that my constituents get help. Because what my constituents want is to make sure to have someone who listens. My number 1 job when I'm in the district is to listen, not tell the people, but listen to the people. And my team does a great job in doing that. And my last job is the political side, which is to make sure that we're passing policies, we're talking about the issues that's really impacting them, and also educating my base on what those things are. Because these sometimes are very complicated, and I got to make sure that it's synthesized down so that they understand the impact on them.
I think something I always find very interesting when it comes to speaking with politicians is the background that they have before going into this particular field. And you specifically, you have background in law, economic development, and political activism.
Yes.
So tell me, what are some of the things that you learned that you've now taken with you as an assembly member, and how has that influenced you?
So I think I am a little bit different, and I think it's helped me have more of a business background. And I think of recently, at least from our area, that hasn't been the background of people that's been elected to office, right? Because one of my number one goals is to create 7,700 jobs in the 77th and bring 77 new businesses. Because I believe economic development is the real key to making sure that the people in our community can stay in their community, they can thrive in our community. It improves our neighborhoods, improves our schools, but it gives all of our young people a future by creating those jobs, those opportunities, creating those businesses so we can hire locally, right? I don't need another dollar store coming in or a Dollar Tree. They take our money and it goes to some investors out west somewhere or down south. I want local businesses to thrive because they hire. The money stays in the 7-7. So I think my background in economic development and affordable housing, I've been on 2 nonprofit affordable housing boards, and let's be honest, we need better housing stock, quality housing stock at affordable prices, and I'm one of the few in my district who has that experience. And last, as an attorney, my job is to pass laws. And as an attorney, I understand the New York State Constitution, the United States Constitution, and the impacts, right? Because sometimes you can have a great idea, but if you don't understand the legal impact it's going to have and down the road, you can make a mistake, even though you had great intentions. So I think my background really helps make sure that the execution of the law makes sense and will help the people.
Yeah, I think that's so important to kind of have all these different things that then help make up your role as an assembly member and help you tackle, all 3 jobs like you mentioned.
Right.
But with that, you are the assembly member for District 77, meaning that you are the assembly member for the neighborhoods of Claremont, Concourse, Highbridge, Mount Eden, and Morris Heights. Can you talk about maybe what are some of the challenges of working in such a diverse district?
We have a beautiful cultural quilt that is the 77th. We have multiple languages, multiple cultures. We have one of the largest growing West African populations in the community. We have a tremendous Dominican population, a Puerto Rican population, and an African American population. What I have seen is that everybody wants the same thing. A school that they can walk to that they think their kids will get a good education. That's going to prepare them for jobs and prepare them for the future. So that's why I'm a big proponent for vocational training, such as what you do, right? I want to make sure that everyone's not meant to go to college. Listen, I was blessed to go to Morehouse College, an amazing education opportunity. But carpentry, getting your certificate to become an HVAC construction worker or electrician. That's a great job.
Right.
So I'm big on providing those opportunities, and that goes across the spectrum. It doesn't matter where you come from. People just want an opportunity, right? So yes, we might have a language barrier at times because people speak different languages, but at the same time, they do speak one language, which is, how are we going to make our community better? And that is what every one of those communities want. Doesn't matter if it's from Claremont to Mount Eden, Morris Heights, or the Concourse, or Highbridge, where I live. You know, I'm a proud homeowner in Highbridge. I'm anchored in Highbridge, and that means I'm dedicated to our community. I got started by doing block cleanups and getting a speed bump put on my block because a kid on my block almost got hit by a car. Right. I wasn't trying to run for office. That wasn't my plan. I was having a good legal career. My wife does great work at 1199. It was just I was trying to make my area better. And now that's just translating to all the other areas. They want cleaner streets. You know, I'm starting an anti-dumping program. We're getting 2 new cameras. We got funding for 2 new anti-dumping cameras. Why do people come from outside our community to dump their garbage in our community? Why are they being disrespectful to our community? And I'm gonna stop that. Another simple thing is clean up after your dog. I know it seems so simple. I got 2 kids. Nothing worse than you gotta pick your kid up so they don't step on dog crap, right?
Yeah.
Our community deserves better. I'm looking around here in this area, right on your area. You guys keep it nice and clean. I want to do the same thing for our community because that's what they deserve. They deserve clean streets, safe streets, a place where their kids can go to the park and not worry about something happening, right? There's nothing better than seeing kids play, having fun, and you don't have to worry, do we need to go inside?
Yeah.
I'm changing that, and I'm working with the 44th precinct, the 46th precinct. Since in office since February, crime is down compared to a year ago. That story needs to be told. Burglaries are down. Violent crime is down in our district. That's the story that needs to be told, but instead they focus on the negative stuff.
You know, I think that is such a great place to leave it before we head to break, and I'm so excited to continue this conversation when we come back.
Absolutely, thank you.
It's time to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with Assemblymember Landon Dais. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching a new edition of In the District with District 77 Assemblymember Landon Dais. So we last left off and we kind of talked about the little changes that you did before even running for office and things going on in your community that you kind of helped, push forward. So let's talk about the cannabis shops.
Absolutely.
You are an advocate for the legalization of cannabis shops here in New York City. Now, how have you seen the increase in the shops benefit the community economically?
Well, people have to remember the legal shops that are sanctioned by the Cannabis Management Office, part of the tax revenue goes back into the communities that were negatively impacted by the war on drugs. So that's important. The excise tax from legal cannabis is going back into the communities that were negatively impacted by the war on drugs, which we all know mostly impacted communities of African American and Latino communities, right? Black and Latino, we were specifically targeted under Reagan during the war on drugs. Right. Crystal Peoples-Stokes, our majority leader, who was the architect of the MRTA law that's legalized cannabis, she is an absolute advocate for the people that have been negatively impacted by the war on drugs. So it is absolutely essential that we support the legal shops. We only shop at the legal shops, which means you have to be 21 or older. That means the products are tested to make sure there's no chemicals, heavy metals, fungicides, things that you don't want in the products, right? Not tainted, right? That's making a safer supply chain. Because the reality is, if you don't know what you're getting, because listen, New Yorkers were one of the top users of marijuana in the world.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest with ourselves. We actually use enough marijuana prior to legalization to fill the Empire State Building on a yearly basis. You didn't know where it was coming from. You didn't know what was in it, right? And then also, you don't want to make sure there's no chemicals like fentanyl, anything like that. So it's creating a safer supply chain. And that money is going back into your community. So that is why I supported the smoke out bill, which was added to the budget, which is going to close the illegal cannabis shops or anyone else that is selling cannabis illegal, because we want to make sure their products are safe. And two, we want to make sure that part of the money from those sales are coming back to the community. And that's why I was a big believer in supporting the bill that would allow the city to enforce closures of those illegal shops. Because let's be honest, we've seen shops open up around schools, which is not allowed underneath the legal bill, around churches or around religious institutions. This stops that. And I'm going to make sure, and if you ever have an issue with a shop in your district, you can call our office or email us at our office, and we will make sure that we help get that shop closed if it's not a legal shop.
Now, for the maybe future owners of these legal shops, can you talk about what are some of the channels they have to go through to ensure that they're following all the laws and all of the procedures to remain open?
Well, the good news is on the website for the Cannabis Management Office, it has a real detailed list of the regulations, the application process, which licenses are available, right? So you have retail, manufacturing, cultivation, delivery, micro license, which allows you to do cultivation, manufacturing, and retail. Then there also is going to be a nursery license, which is the baby plants, and then which you sell to the cultivators. And then there's also like marketing now, because you don't just have to have a license. It's ancillary business, right? If you're an accountant, learn about the cannabis accounting laws, right? Because those shops were going to need an accountant. If you're an attorney, marketer, if you're an influencer, right, those things can help allow you to get into business even without having a license. So there's the license structures, which is one way to make money, and then there's the other ancillary businesses that you can make money on also, right? Branding, and there's also what's called a white labeling license, basically, where you would buy from a cultivator or a manufacturer, you can brand it in your own way, and you sell it to a legal shop. So they really have created a lot of avenues how people can be a part of the legal cannabis industry.
I think that's important to note, so that way, business owners know where to go, how to follow them, so they remain open. Because it's unfortunate that you have this shop and because you didn't follow procedures, and now you lose your business, and now you close down.
So they do a good job of the regulations. You do want to make sure you have a lawyer who understands that. But let me highlight one other major part of the legal cannabis project that they've done. New York has opened more social equity licenses than any state. Even though we're still only in year 2, let's say, we have opened more cannabis businesses owned by Black and Latinos and Asians, for most. That is a success. I know people are criticizing the program, and yes, it can get better. But the one thing that the majority leader wanted was to ensure that people that were impacted by the war on drugs had a first dibs opportunity in the industry, and we are doing that.
I think that's amazing. And moving on, let's kind of pivot to your work with youth development. You mentioned earlier on that you are a father. So just tell me a little bit about that work and why is that so important to you?
So being the father of 2 amazing boys is the greatest gift that I've ever had. They are my everything. Everything I do is for my boys, to leave them a legacy, because my job is to leave this place better for them, so that their children, my grandchildren and greats, have a better country, a better state, a better city. I am their baseball coach at the Mullally Baseball League at Wendell T. Foster Park, which I coach 4 to 9-year-olds. I have hundreds of kids in that league, and that's my joy. That's actually the hardest part about being in this job. I'm not a full-time coach anymore. I'm only part-time because my time is pulled. Because I realize that having a positive male influence, a positive father figure, absolutely increases my son's ability to be a success in life. That is why I'm proud to say here that myself and Senator Jamal Bailey are we're sponsoring a bill called the Fatherhood Initiative, which will allow money from the state to create a Fatherhood Initiative program so young fathers can get resources, so young fathers can learn how can they be a better father, what are some things that are the struggles they're dealing with. Because there's a lot of resources for motherhood, right? And we absolutely need to increase that. But we need to do more for the young fathers, right? Create a support network. That is why I started a thing called Brunch of Dads, right? When my son was first born, every first Saturday of the month, myself and some young fathers that I knew in my network, most of us were all Black and Latino, we have brunch every first Saturday with our kids, because it was just a sounding board. Right? How do you support our wives? How do we support the mothers of our children, right? How do we support each other, right? How to deal with postpartum depression when the mother of your child is dealing with that, right? Because no one talks about it on the father's side, because what are the signs?
Right.
What's going on, right? Another thing is advocating for our mothers in childbirth. The mortality rate of Black and Latino women when giving birth is astronomically high. How do I advocate for my partner to ensure that the doctors are doing everything that they can? Serena Williams almost died.
Yeah.
If it was not for her husband, who was there in that moment saying, hey, something's not right, advocating for his wife, you know what I mean? She could have died. And I want to make sure that other fathers can do the same for their partners and ensure that they're getting the proper health, the proper resources. And that's what I think our fatherhood initiative, combined with my background as the founder of Brunch of Dads, means so much to me.
I think that's so amazing. You hear a lot of like mommy and me classes or classes for mothers, but sometimes we don't focus on, you know, the fathers. And like you said, how can they advocate for their wives and for their families? So can you tell us, for anybody who may want to join or get involved, how would they go about doing that?
Well, call our office, right? And we will connect you with the Fatherhood Initiative. We need people to come up to Albany and talk about why this is important. I want you to lobby with me, right? You talk about what do I do in Albany? Part of my job is getting members in my community when a bill's going to impact them or something that they care about, is teaching them how to strengthen their voice, how to work the channels in the political spectrum. And that is my job, right? My job is not just to get votes or vote on bills, but it's to make my community a stronger voice for the things that they care about. And I know there's some dedicated young men in my community or young fathers that want to be a part of this. They want their voice to be heard. They want to show that the negative imagery of the absent Black and Latino father is a misnomer. There are so many young Black and young Latino fathers that are in their children's lives every day. And I want that to be magnified in channels like yours, but in general in Albany, and create them and give them resources that would allow them to flourish even more. Because if we do that, it only improves our community.
Absolutely. And you know, during the break, you brought up the Deeds Death Bill.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So there are some really deviant people that are targeting our community, specifically looking at older Black and Latino homeowners on the Grand Concourse when it comes to co-ops or houses on Grant or College Avenue or University Avenue, Teller Avenue, and they're literally trying to steal their deeds. The paper that says who owns this property. And on our law books, we didn't have a criminal penalty for deeds theft. It was considered a civil litigation issue where you would have, it's like a breach of contract.
Right.
So what would happen is I stole your deed, I would tie it up in litigation. You might have this home, but you don't have money for lawyers to fight that. So now, you now have the Attorney General, Tish James, who asked me to be a part of this and to push for it. You now have Tish James, the Attorney General, the amazing Attorney General, having the back of every New Yorker, and I was proud to jump on that bill myself and Senator Myrie out of Brooklyn. Because now we have a weapon to fight these con artists that are targeting our elderly, specifically Black and Latino homeowners in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Southeast Queens. We had 18 in our district. That's 18 too many. And now we're coming for them. One thing I've always promised them in my district, I'm here to protect my people also, specifically my seniors. And I kept my promise, and that's why I got that bill done.
That's amazing. You know, I like how you brought up the idea of protection and protecting your community.
Absolutely.
So as we near the end of our show, let's talk about what we kind of mentioned at the top of the conversation, which is, unfortunately, the Bronx sometimes is shown in a negative light and portrayed with, you know, because a lot of times you speak to people and you tell them from the Bronx and they're like, oh, you know, they give you just this negative perception. They have a negative perception, and that does come from the media.
It does.
So can you talk a little bit about just the importance, as we wrap the show, just the importance of highlighting all the great things that go on here in the Bronx?
Well, one, we have some of the most beautiful parks, right? We have Highbridge, Van Cortlandt, Joyce Kilmer, right? Places open, airy, sunny, beautiful, where people just want to hang out, chill, have fun. We have the Bronx Zoo, Botanical Gardens. We have Little Italy, which has the best Italian food in New York City. You know, we have Fordham University, we have Hostos, we have Bronx Community College, right? We have some of the best CUNYs in the district. We have Metro North Stars, we have Yankee Stadium, we have the best baseball team in world history. But the thing that the Bronx has the best is the people. These are hard-working people that make New York City work thrive, right? There are nurses, our medical attendants in hospitals. They work in our subways at TWU as subway and bus drivers. They are teachers. They are the people that really are, I think, the heartbeat of New York City, right? When I go to my district, I like going to Suyo, which is one of my favorite restaurants in my district. I like to dance salsa merengue music with my wife in bachata. We're the birthplace of hip hop, and now we have the Hip Hop Museum opening. We have the Bronx Children's Museum, which is a beautiful place to bring your children. We have culture, we have style, we have swag. I think the kids call it different names, these Riz, I think what the kids say these days. We just have opportunity here, and I'm working for that. So I'm tired of the negativity. Let's focus on the positivity. Do we have issues? Absolutely.
Right.
And my job is to stop that, right? Create more jobs, create opportunities, right? I want gun violence to be at 0. One gunshot, one person wounded, one person killed by a gun is one too many. But crime is going down. Quality of life is going up. But I need the community to work with me also. Let's get out there together, community cleanups, let's stop the dumping. Did you know that you can make $1,200 if you find a dumper in your neighborhood, take a picture of the license plate and report it to the Department of Sanitation? Let's do that. If you have an issue, call 311 and then send that 311 number to my office and we can make the Bronx better. So we're doing positive things, and the people of the Bronx make a difference.
That is such a great place to leave it. Assemblymember, I want to thank you so much again for sitting down with us this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching. And remember, you can always watch this program anytime, anywhere on BronxNet.org and YouTube. While you're there, be sure to follow BronxNet on social media to find out who we'll sit down with next from BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx. I'm Brittany Schuyler. Talk to you soon.